Thank you, Dennis. Can everybody hear me? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So 20 minutes, I'm going to try to keep this to. So I'm going to be whipping through slides. And I understand that this is, archived. The audio part of it is archived, so the people that will be listening, whenever that happens, they won't have the opportunity to see the slides. So
They can go to your website, though.
they can, yes, they can. So my name is Edreys Wajed. It's a pleasure to be here. One of my mentors and teachers from high school actually kind of has me in this fold right now, Mr. Delacroix, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here, to see my, what I do being valuable enough to share with others, and thank you, Dennis, too. Okay, so I'm going to be whipping through slides, and I'm going to do my best to give you the scope of the creative that I am, with, as they say, the receipts, meaning the proof. This picture here is pretty much just like a placeholder right now, just while we were talking, and it's called Warm. And I'll talk about this piece a little later towards the end, and its significance and the style and the reason that it's that way. Okay, while watching the video about particularly Constable and just how fabulous the landscapes, that particular landscape that he worked on was, I was sitting there just thinking about, that's probably one of the reasons why I don't do landscaping. Like, the amount of detail, in the trees and the water and the shadows, and like the knowledge, the level of knowledge is just remarkable, and the skill was just remarkable. However, I shared this in a lot of my presentations. It just so happens to be that it's a landscape. This is my very first landscape that I ever painted. I painted this when I was 7 years old with my dad. My dad is an artist. My mom is an artist. They met at Buffalo State College in the arts department. So simple math, two artists come together. The likelihood and the percentage of them having an offspring as an artist, here I am. And so while watching that presentation, it was just, again, I was just in awe about like just the amount of detail he was able to have, even down to the, to the deer house. I'm like, I didn't even see it back there in the foliage, right? Just like the amount of detail that it takes in order to be that level of an artist. So I just found the connection for me is like immediately, I was like, oh, I remember doing landscapes, and I also now remember why I don't enjoy them now. This is the only picture that I have here for the people that are listening that don't see the visuals. I'm showing them a picture of a pointillism piece that I did at City Honors. And my art teacher, her name was Gail Tatesha, and she is a very important person in my development as an artist, in the sense of she would give me these projects, and she wouldn't give me too many instructions. Like, she would give me a tool, she would give me something or some sort of medium or something to work with, and just really kind of say, now go figure it out. And as a teenager, I thought she was kind of picking on me because I wasn't able to do the projects that everybody else was doing. So I'm sitting here working and struggling and toiling with this, with a project that she just kind of handed me, and my other, classmates are, having a good time and, just churning out, whatever it is, crayons, markers. And I'm over here with this one little pen, particularly for this piece, a micron, which is really small pen. And the instructions she gave me for this picture, which is a picture of Magic Johnson from the All-Star game, so probably talking in the 91, something around there. And she gave me instructions of, pick a picture of somebody that you like, an athlete. Cool, got that. Sorted through some Sports Illustrated pages. And then she says, you can't use any lines. And I'm like, okay. She's like, so if you want something dark, you have to use a bunch of dots, concentrate the dots into these, to a fine space. If you want it to be light, you have to separate the dots, sparsely apart. That was all she gave me. That was the only instruction she gave me. And so here I am over in the corner trying to figure out what the heck she means. I'm like, how do you do that? But I figured it out. And I had to, in the background, you'll see like these kind of populated kind of white silhouettes. That was the only way at that age that I can think of, how do I simulate what a crowd would look like a fuzzy crowd, out of focus crowd. I'm just experimenting and just figuring this thing out as I go along. Needless to say, she was impressed. She knew that I could do it. I just didn't know that I could do it. So I give her a lot of credit for the way I approach my work today still. And I just figure things out. I say yes before I know what the outcome is or what the challenge is gonna be, and then I just figure it out as I move along. So I always give her recognition for that, for having a good way of teaching me that practice. I do not have this piece any longer. I gave it to my then girlfriend, and then she lost it in a flood in their basement. So that's that. So this is the only evidence I have of it. Okay, I'm gonna be blowing through slides. So I just want to show you that people know me as a creative, as an artist, but I am a creative, meaning that I find ways to create. Like, that's the biggest part of who I am. I just have to make things and have to create things. This is a picture of me performing as a hip hop artist, as it read in my bio. Music is a big part of who I am. It's a big part of what drives me and fuels me and what fills me. Like, I have to do things that fill me up and make me feel good. So creating, producing, writing, and performing was a big part of who I am and what I used to do. There, I went by the stage name Edreys Williams, which I don't have time to get into. But if you want to look it up, Edreys Williams, Drees, D-R-E-A-S-E, Williams, you'll find some videos and things of that nature. I'm also a jeweler. Again, my dad is an artist. Amin Ra's his name. Originally, Edreys Wajed was his name before he changed his name. And he's a master crafter jeweler. He's maybe over 50 years now of jewelry. That was like his first job, actually, out of college. He met his first employer as a professor at Buff State, Dave Anderson, and that's the craft that my dad's been in for quite a long time. So I'm sharing a picture right now of a ring that I made and designed out of wax and then cast into silver. So I'm a second generation jeweler. I wasn't raised with my dad. However, I found it very necessary that being his only son, I do have an older sister, but being his only son, as my sister didn't really express too much interest in learning the craft, I felt that if I wasn't going to be a jeweler, I at least needed to have the craft, at least needed to be knowledgeable, of the skill and of the trade. And now we have children, my wife and I have children of our own, and we've tinkered a little bit with them, kind of dipping their foot into it. Again, not to impress upon them, hey, you need to be a jeweler, you're a third generation jeweler, it's not that kind of deal. However, the practice, right? This is another medium, another form of how I create and how I share. And this is another slide of a piece of jewelry that I created. So the top one is, these are both sterling silver jewelry pieces, and the top is the piece that my dad actually made for me. So when I was a baby, I have pictures of me with this silver bracelet on, and I still have the bracelet. I have it just like in a little safe. So in 2018, this was my way of like reconnecting again, because I wasn't doing jewelry full time. I still don't, but I would just dabble in it. So to kind of pay homage to that craft, of my dad making that piece for me, I made my own version at an adult size, which is why, again, I always going to tinker and feel creative in finding ways to express myself. So now I'm going to zip through my visual arts portion, because that's what people more so know me for. For quite some time, this is it's a black and white drawing, and this is what defined my artistry, which was black and white contrasted work, line art. And this goes back to that high school picture that I showed where Ms. Taychuk gave me 1 micron pen. And I still carry pens on me to this day, right? I still carry them on. I always keep a pen because of her. Like, I grew very attached to that one medium, black and white, because you don't need much. You just need paper and something to put it on. You know, I don't need a paintbrush. I don't need to, I mean, I'm gonna look kind of odd walking around the streets of Buffalo with just paintbrushes hanging out of my pocket, right? So a pen, right? Concealable, put it on myself, keep it near to myself. And so black and white line art was always my thing for quite some time. And that was just the way, it was very conservative. And I didn't realize it until I started doing the practice of the work that you'll see soon. It was very conservative in the sense of I was always afraid to use color, you know. Using color, as permanent as this ink is when you use it, using color just felt like it was ruining the raw quality of what I was putting down. Like I didn't want to put something over what I had already labored over and putting out. So these 6 pictures here are from a series of drawings that I had done in, let's see, it's 2016, I believe. So looking at my bio again, I spent some time as an educator. For 5 years, I taught visual arts as a high school arts teacher in high school. And during that time, interestingly enough, people thought that was like, oh, that's perfect for you. You're an artist, you're visual arts, you can communicate with kids well, absolutely. The downfall or the shortcoming of me being in that practice is that I was so consumed by it that I did not get a chance to create my own work anymore. Like I went into the craft of education, and the thing that made me who I was and who I am was the thing that I was the farthest away from. They're like, but you teach art. I'm like, yeah, teaching art and doing art as my own they weren't synonymous with each other. And so for quite some time, I didn't draw anything besides a demonstration in class. So these 6 are a part of a 500-day daily drawing series that I did in 2016 because a friend of mine told me, hey, you're an artist. I need you drawing. I need you to put some time and so put some work and I'm gonna be your accountability partner. So draw it. Her name is Dana Saylor, who I adore to this day, and I always mention her name as well. She said, draw something every day. You got 20 minutes, make it. Draw something. Doesn't matter what it is. Share it and make sure you tag me in it. So those 5 days turned into 500, actually 700. I stopped sharing at the 500th day because I was like, okay, I think they get the picture, right? It's like, I think they get the picture that I am questing and going towards Edreys, who Edreys is. And during that series of drawing for 500 days straight and posting it, that's when other opportunities started to come and emerge. Because obviously I think it's just started to make a ripple into the waters and my name started to kind of resonate along the local scene. So again, pardon me if I slide and blow through these things, but I want to stay within time. Dennis, what am I looking like? Good? Okay. Now in doing that series, the 500-day series, I ran into a guy named Nick Miller. Nick Miller is a muralist. And when I ran into him in person, he said, oh, I follow you. He said, you should work big, man. And I'm like, everything that I do is pretty much the size of everything that I was doing up to that point was pretty much the size of 8.5 by 11 paper. Maybe 12 inches by 18 inches sometimes here or there. And he said, man, you need to go big. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with going big, 1. 2, I don't really know how to do that. You know, outside of using the grid was not my favorite thing to do. And so he said, oh, I do. He said, oh, that's what I do, I'm a muralist. So I went over his house. I went over this guy's house after the first time me meeting him, you know, he's a stranger at that point, really. However, I was just like, let's investigate, you know, went over, and this is me. He took a picture of me, like, of a large piece that I did from that 500 drawing series. And it's a rooster without feet, and I don't have a reason as to why I didn't have feet. It's just, when I was in the series of drawing, it didn't matter. What I did was, in order for me to get through those drawings, I had to abandon the judgment of it. Like, my goal was just to draw. Did I draw today? Okay. Am I analyzing it? No. So This is the first time me getting this picture of working large on the wall. This is, which led to other opportunities again. So this is me working at Buff State on a mural, and thanks to Kathy Cherokee over at Buff State. So they got a grant and an award over there for me to do a piece inside of Upton Hall. And in Upton Hall is the art department where I spent, all 4 years, like grinding at becoming an artist. So this piece is called Where Opportunity Meets Skill, and it's right near the exit when you walk out of Upton, because what I wanted to do is to inspire students that are there, that they're developing the skills, and when they walk out of there, the hope is that they'll shake a hand, right, and get the opportunity. So opportunity meets skill. That piece exists at Upton Hall if ever you're over in that area. And then I'm just sliding through a couple of things. So this is another mural. This is on Bailey and Amherst. So my confidence began to grow just from me saying yes to Nick Miller and showing me. And this piece was done with actually Nick Miller and Chris Kamek. And so it's getting larger. It's getting larger, right? And it's still in black and white. It's still in black and white. That's my thing. This is the other side there. Also at Bailey and Amherst. Okay. Fast forward. This is a picture of me at the Freedom Wall in 2017 over the summer. Without me knowing, obviously, the community was watching. Aaron Ott, Public Arts Director, was watching. And I had the opportunity to be one of the 4 artists at the mural for the Freedom Wall mural. The Freedom Wall mural came about with some controversy, which I don't have time to really share, but in the Q&A we can talk about it if we have time to. Nonetheless, I had an opportunity that I'm glad that I said yes to. Because, again, what it did was, it gave me the confidence in knowing that I had the ability and I was very well prepared for paramount and landmark, experiences that are longer, that will go further and longer than me. Like, this is going to exist. I hopefully it lasts for a long time, given weather and everything. But nonetheless, it's impacting people, and I am not standing there to speak for it. That's the thing. It's impacting people that drive by it, live by it, and experience it. So the Freedom Wall was a pivotal moment for me. And again, black and white, right? These are the 7 Freedom Wall dignitaries that I was responsible for: William Wells Brown, W.E.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X, Frank Merriweather, Lydia T. Wright, and Dr. Lydia T. Wright, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Harriet Tubman. So we were all responsible for 7 each, 4 artists. Chuck Tingley, John Baker, and Julia Bottoms were the other 3 artists. Okay, so back to the top. The very first piece that I showed you was called Warm, and it was kind of abstracty looking. So the reason why I'm showing this now is because this is where I am currently, and it's a merge of my love and passion for music and my personal statement as a living artist and creative. As you've seen, I've very rarely used color. I was very apprehensive about it. But in order to grow, we have to do things that we are uncomfortable with. So in doing that, I was playing around with a series of works in my studio at the Buffalo Art Studio at the Tri-May building. And I had a friend come by and she started rolling out, I had these rolls of paper that had kind of images like this on it. She started rolling out the paper amidst like all of my artwork that was up was all just black and white. And she was like, "What is this?" And I'm like, something I'm working on, really, bashful about it. She's like, "You need to be going in this direction." Her name is Leah. I have to give her credit to Leah Hamilton and Shirley Verico as well. With their encouragement, I began to explore this style, which is, it's music. Every piece is a piece of music. This piece in particular, as we talked earlier about, this piece I created live at the Silo reading series in the Silos. And this piece is called Baby Be Mine by Michael Jackson. So what I do is with each marking and each color is a different instrument. And I listen to this music for several hours at a time, breaking down, listening to the music, isolating sounds, and I interpreted the movement of it, the intensity of it, the movement of it into these paintings. So it's going back to my experience being a producer, being in the studio, listening to sound, performing sound. So this was me merging my love of music, which I had to abandon for some adulting reasons. I had to go, as a friend told me, I had to grow up. And so it was me merging that gap, that hole of me not being able to be a musician anymore, a performer, and put it into something visual. So what you're seeing sound as opposed to hearing sound. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these pieces here. This is a smaller series. And actually, this series right now is actually on display at the Flying Bison Brewery down on Seneca Street. They have a small gallery in there called the Flight Gallery. These pieces are up there until January 31st if you want to see them in person. So this is another piece here. This one is, I believe, Before I Let Go. And also you'll see there's text in there as well. And the reason that I started to kind of really play around with this thing is because I noticed when I was doing my black and white art, it's very clean, precise, it's easy to get. You look at it, you make a decision, like it, I don't like it. I get it, I don't get it. Here, when I was able to dig into these levels and layers, it encouraged people to stay further with the piece and longer with the piece. Like trying to read it and decipher, like, what am I looking at? What is this? What does it say? So I always pull lyrics out because I'm a lyricist. I'm also a writer. I pull lyrics out of the music and I put those into the pieces as well. So I don't make up my own. I listen to the artist, something that strikes me from the song, and I put that into the music, into the pieces as well. And it's always like elevated. I want to inspire people. So it's always something like an inspirational piece of the song that I put in there. So I'm going to wrap up with, in full circle here, in my practice currently. Here speaks to everything that I've showed you thus far. You see the sun gold color from the Freedom Wall. You see the black and white line art that began in high school in Mrs. Taychuk's classroom. The scale is very large, as you can see that tree there next to the bus stop. And then you see the musical representation and notation also. This piece is a mural in Niagara Falls outside of the Underground Railroad Museum, which is great to visit if you haven't been there yet. And it's an image of Spider Martin, Spider Martin, who is Pappy Martin's brother. He's a big jazz musician from Niagara Falls. And this song interpreted next to him is called Sweet Jenny Lou. Sweet Jenny Lou, which was his favorite song to play. And his brother, who's 83 years old, I believe, came out on site while I was there, and it was the left side of it was not there. It was just the image of him with the sax. And so I was like, man, I don't know if I want to put my new style on this wall. You know, it's like I can do it in my studio because I don't want no one has to ever see it until I do it. But I was like, this is a big gamble, man. Like putting it on a wall, like publicly like that. So I talked to my wife, who's the person I confer with all the time, and she was like, do it, just do it. And right when I was about to do it, I had a different song in mind because you can't find his music online. And his brother popped up out of nowhere. I was talking to him, he's giving me some information, and he goes, Sweet Jenny Lou. That's his song, Sweet Jenny Lou. And so I went to study Sweet Jenny Lou, gave it a couple of days, came back, and that's Sweet Jenny Lou on the wall. Yeah, that's Sweet Jenny Lou. So I'm showing, I wanted to conclude with that because that's where I am now. Like those are all of the pieces and me giving myself permission to develop and evolve as an artist, you know, being patient and being open about not knowing where I'm going. So as I stand here before you now, I have no idea what's going to happen at the end of this year, next year, what I'm going to be doing, but it's going to involve art, it's going to involve jewelry, and it's going to involve music because those are the things I can't escape. So, thank you.
Edreys, it's
good story you told us. I like that. And the good part of this session, we always attract people with good questions.
Awesome.
So let's find out what they are. By the way, who's the teachers in the audience? Current or retired? I know one for sure. Over there, I know one for sure. Over here, a few of you. You're a wonderful reinforcement, I would think, to any teacher to know that the impact is there. You never know exactly where, but the potential is there to change lives.
Absolutely.
And hats off to all the teachers. All right, I've got one question here, one over there. We'll start with you, sir. Give us your first name.
Hi, I'm Erwin. And when you do your music art, do you do the horizontal lines first and then the verticals and then the colors?
Great question. So it's almost like sheet music, like for musicians, right? So musicians read left to right. They go by the staffs, right? So I approach the artwork in the exact same way. You know, in digital recording, when I was doing music, like when you digitally record, you don't have these stacks where it goes down like this unless it's divided by tracks. But otherwise, if we had one track going all the way across, like if I had a wall going all the way across, I would just go all the way across. But being that I have, margins, right, I kind of go do-do-do, next level, do-do-do, all right, and I just keep recording that way. And so that's what creates the layers. The layers is just, I take, say for instance, the drums, I'm isolating the drums, listen to the drums all the way through, the hi-hat, the crashes, everything. I come to the saxophone, and I just keep layering them over and over in that way. So I work from left to right. And then the only thing that I don't do in that fashion is when I do the text. The text is, kind of all over the place.
Good. Over here.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
When you did that painting in Silo City, you did that in front of us, in front of an audience, and there was a poetry reciting in front of that.
Yeah.
How much going into there did you know premeditated that you were going to put there, and how much of that was an ad-lib that you just did on the spot?
Oh, it's all ad-lib. So what I did, only thing that I did know was that the song, because I have to study this song for a while, So I sat with the song for quite a long time, 3 days or so. This is just like headphones on repeat, just getting familiar with where the groove is, where the break is, like where's the musician gonna take it off here? Where's Michael Jackson gonna make this riff? Like I listened to it over and over, so that way on the spot when I got there, all of the rest of it was just all improvised. Like I know what the sounds are, I isolate all the sounds. If there's, in this one particularly, he had about like 12 things going on. Like it was a big production. That album, the Thriller album, is where Quincy Jones was involved with it. So you're talking instrumentation of strings and timpanis and all kind of stuff. So that's why that one is so dense. So as far as when I approach creating the work, again, I don't know what it's gonna look like. All I know is I have the elements, I have the rhythms kind of locked in, and it evolves right in front of me. Yeah. So it's pretty raw.
There we go. From back to front. First name.
Hi, my name is Dion.
Hi, Deanna.
Hey, Therese. So my question for you is, during the process of listening and studying the music in your mind and playing it through, before you begin to tackle the project, do you decide the paint colors based on the song? Does it all create that feeling for you, or do you just kind of just wing it with what colors you want to
No,
use?
so great question.
Because this is my favorite piece, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. No, the only thing that gets, no, I don't wing anything besides, winging is not the word I want to use. I'm open to what the final piece looks like, but it's never winged. So as far as the colors go, those are decided on the spot because I'm listening, and to me, a particular movement of that instrumentation, trumpet, horn, or whatever, to me, it always pops as a color to me. Like I don't just randomly just take paint and go, okay, this is the horns, and like I stand there and stare at it for a long time listening to, before I begin. I'm like, the only colors that are static, which means they're in all of my pieces, is black. And because in most songs, the rhythm or the drummer is like the core, right? That's the drum. Most songs may even start off with the drums. So being that that's the most grounded of the instruments, it's usually always black, unless it's a more soft ballad song, so to speak. Like I did an Etta James piece, At Last. Very, very minimal percussion. I mean, you could barely hear anything in there, you know. So I didn't use black in that. They would use the softer colors in there for the percussion. But otherwise, I listen until that, and I don't make a move until that instrument has declared what color fits for it.
Interesting. All right, I've got one here and one here. We'll get you first. First name.
James.
Hi, James.
Very curious if you will have any plans on meeting with
That's it.
thank you. If you have any plans on collaborating with any of the local Buffalo artists as far as like Griselda's and the other local talents that are around here. You know, they're big on fashion, jewelry, and artwork just as well as yourself. So I mean, I think it would be a very nice collaboration.
Thank you, man. I don't, particularly with, I'm familiar with Griselda, with the work that they're doing. I haven't actively like sought out anybody, you know. I kind of just do my thing, you know, and not to be distracted, but I just kind of, I'm always open. You know, people reach out to me, but I'm always, like I said, I always say yes first. I jump. And like, yeah, then I'll figure it out. Like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, so, but I'm always open for collaboration. I'm a very collaborative person in the sense of I've learned to be very selfless for bigger endeavors. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to do things that are creative and that are going to be impactful. That's where I'm driven by with collaboration stuff. Yeah.
Good.
Joanne, do you
Hi.
see or feel color when you hear music?
Do I see or feel color? Yeah. So there's, what's the term? There's a term for it. Yeah, synesthesia. But I would not claim that I have that. Because I'm not certain. I just know that what I hear, and if I don't have like the standard colors, like if I have like all the primary colors in front of me, and I'm looking at it, I just know it when I see it. So I hear this instrumentation and I just start mixing the color until I'm like, oh, yep, this is you. So, you know, so I don't know, I can't necessarily say I see the color, but I definitely feel a connection between whatever that instrument is and what it should look like. You know, what the sound should look like. Yeah. Like I don't impose on it. Like I don't say, hey, violin, you are yellow. Like, it doesn't work that way. I just kind of listen and like, you feel like you're going to be in the magenta area, you know?
So it's different with each piece of music that you hear.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, for example, these here, particularly what's unique about these is those are all hip hop songs. Those are 6 hip hop songs there, all different. And so there'll be some things that kind of link to them. Those 2 that are just blue just happen to be blue. But otherwise, the color palette is like all over the place, particular to those individual songs.
Good. Good.
And then
Other questions?
You still have a question?
I'll wind it up here. I've got one.
You got 3 left.
I'm gonna
1,
get.
2, 3.
Oh, what's the third one here?
Over here, Mr. McKeeson.
Okay. Go ahead, Leo. I'll tell you what. Because we're running a little, we're getting late. Ask your questions and then you can respond maybe and package them all together.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and my question is, as a multi-hyphenate artist, did you ever go through a period of figuring out, I gotta pick one, or did people tell you, you gotta pick one? I mean, just I'd like to hear a little bit about that phase, you know?
All right.
Because obviously you integrated them all.
Good, thank you. That's an awesome question.
Question about integration, how this works. Other hands that were raised. I saw one back there, come on.
Yes, hi, I'm Don.
Hi, Don.
Yes, I like this, it's interesting and it's new. I would just love to have an opportunity to sit here and hear the music
I know.
and observe what's going on there.
Okay.
I certainly would get a good takeaway with that.
Okay.
One
Thank you.
day, perhaps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds like studio work coming up here. Finding reels with possibilities.
If any of you would like to
Here,
see,
Chuck, stand up so they can see.
if any of you would like to see a number of Edreys's work online, including photographs of details of his work, go to Buffalo Architecture and History. A number of things, because I think he's a pretty good artist.
Thank you.
This is Chuck Lacusa. That's his website. And where? What would they put in? Just put in the search engine.
Okay, a search engine. You go to Wajed, W-A-J-E-D. You could go to History Index. Scroll down to his name. You can go to sites, buildings and sites, and there's a link for public art. So I photographed about 100 sculptures and about 125 murals or so, all photographed and documented and so forth. Just go down to Freedom Wall, and when you go to Freedom Wall, you'll see a link to the page just on Edreys. And the things that he didn't allude to at all that are on the website.
Yeah. So
Chuck,
yeah,
you're
he did a great job of documenting one of the shows. So if you go to, what is it, Buffalo AH?
Buffalo AH.
BuffaloAH.com.
Architecture history. That's what the AH stands for.
So Mr. Cusa did a great job detailing some of the shots there. Definitely get more in depth. So thank you for that. Going backwards, yeah, I wish I was able to play, like plug in the music and say, sit with this music, look at the piece, deconstruct the piece, right? And kind of engage to do it. I did at my show in July and May at Argus Gallery last year, wow. Last year, I did incorporate music into the pieces. So I had augmented reality or AR app, which it could QR code the artwork, and people were able with their phones go up to the artwork and to the painting and see me creating the piece live in the studio and hear the song that inspired it. So I'm still working on that because I want people to have that experience, to know what this piece is and know what I was listening to. I definitely want to do that. I'll figure out a way to at some point. And then your question is I enjoy your question because not often do I get it. I still deal with that today. However, my way around it.
Repeat what you're still
So
doing.
the question was, being a multi-hyphenate and multidiscipline kind of creative and artist doing several things that I have to deal with or struggle with, pick one, or hear people saying pick one, or even in my own mind saying, geez, you gotta do one. I struggled with that for a long, long time. And so the pictures and the images I showed earlier was just me doing music. That's all that I did, because I was like, I gotta choose one. When I was just doing art, I wasn't doing music, I was just doing art. When I was doing jewelry, it was just doing jewelry. Now, at this point in my life, I found a way to merge the music and the art together, right? So those two are, I'm great there. And I make time and give myself permission to be a jeweler when I'm a jeweler. Like it's there. So I make the time to sit down and create it. So no longer do I feel like they're separate. Like I gave myself permission to say, that's Edreys. That's who you are, right? The hat would change when I wanted to now. So I don't choose anything else besides being myself.
All right. Great answers, great questions. You follow a few folks that our audience, I'm sure, is familiar with. Kandinsky would hear music, he would write in 1912, 19 era. Our piece is from that same time about concerning the spirituality in art. And it was that idea of colors and music coming together, and Frank Lloyd Wright. To the Martin House. And he would say, imagine you're listening to Beethoven as you walk through this masterpiece. So you come out of a good lineage. All right, folks, we're going to say thank you to you with this certificate of appreciation. And you'll see the emblem when you open it up is about the arts. And that's an image that's in the Buffalo Savings Bank, and it shows you the power of the arts for the city of Buffalo. And here's some note cards from the library. And this wonderful creation by none other than Chuck McHugh. Yeah, your own extra copy like that. But thank you very much again for kicking off 2020.
Oh, thank you.